the way the system is designed. I think, as I said, the incentive structure in government, should change. If you paid, I know this is very controversial, most voters will hate this idea, but if you paid the leader of a country, the equivalent of, what a CEO makes for a big corporation, a couple million or whatnot, individuals will join and want to take on those roles and be adequately compensated, and you might get better quality who joins the government. And so is it nefarious? I'll answer your question. I haven't seen anything specifically in my years in government to say, yep, look, these people know what they're doing. They know they're acting maliciously. They know they're doing this for purpose. There's the Klaus Schwab in the background, rubbing his hands. I haven't seen that. What I do see is a misaligned incentive structure in government attracted a certain type of individual who then go on and, do what they do and do it badly. And I can also speak, if you want, on how organizations like the FATF, make governments comply to the standards, which also plays into this, because it's not, in my particular country, it's not one or two individuals just saying, oh, this is something we want to do. And no, it's a very organic, self-feeding, Leviathan that has a very beautiful carrot and a very strong stick, in its tentacles. So yeah, that's my point of view on there. I knew you were going to ask that question. And that's the best answer I can give you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a question I ask a lot too. Many guests, because I flip-flop back and forth. I can see the fair. Obviously, there's been stretches on the show with particular guests where it's nefarious. These people want to control you, and then I think I'm right now more in the camp of what you just described as the incentives are out of whack, and if you create a system with particular incentives, you're going to get a particular outcome. And it seems like we set up an incentive structure, like going back to the politicians in their pay, where their incentives are out of whack. Only sociopaths who crave power and are willing to bend the rules in their favor would go get that low paying job because of all the status that it comes with, and the favors that can be given out and the backs that can be scratched. And so, yeah, I think setting up the right incentive structure, and to answer your question, flipping it on me, like as an investor in private companies, like I don't need good incentive structures. Private companies either provide a good service to the market, and if it doesn't drive demand, you don't raise any more money. And if it does, you make a lot of money, and you're highly incentivized to make sure that you're delivering that product to the customer and treating your customer the right way. So I think incentives are aligned for most private businesses that actually want to go out and provide a gooder service and make a profit. But yeah, when you
get a pat on the back for that one, good job.
Yeah, and the government.
That's
I don't care what individual you invest in, a team, a leader, because you believe that they're competent enough to decide for themselves who they need and what they need to build their product or service. And then the government too. There's one point I wanted to bring up. There's no accountability. In the startup world, private market world, there is accountability where if you don't provide a good service and you don't have any product market fit and you're not gaining cash flow, particularly under Bitcoin standards, you're just going to go bankrupt. But in the world of government, you have this money printer, which allows you to be completely unaccountable. You can paper over all your mistakes pretty easily with a treasury auction or a Fed bailout, whatever it may be.
That's a true statement, specifically and most especially for the United States. You'll find that other jurisdictions around the world, can't necessarily print money the way the U.S. does. And so there's a higher degree of accountability there. The asymmetry of information, is growing. Who knows what about who, right? When it comes to governments knowing more about you, and versus you knowing something about the government. There's a growing asymmetry there. And of course, knowledge is power. It allows you to play better chess if you know what your opponent's doing or why they're doing it, and what they're doing, and kind of look into their brain. And you're completely right. I mean, I have a hat that says open source the government. I mean, I think about this, quite a bit. There's a lot of big, massive changes that can be, enacted. For example, if a politician or even civil servants in general, got a bonus each year based on how well the economy that they, kind of, supervise. I don't like using that word, but the economy that they're active in. If the economy does well, then they get a bonus. I mean, how hard or difficult is that to do? If the economy does bad, they don't get that bonus, right? Like just something that easy to do. You think would be easy to do, but it isn't. And so the accountability, those kind of big, easy, low-hanging fruit, you would think changes are actually really hard to put in place. And so I look at what can you do? So I got a question for you. Hopefully I don't want to be all doom and gloom. I'm going to ask you a question. Have you ever sent a Freedom of Information request, Marty?
I have not. Not at the federal level. Right? I've done one at the state level, but not at the federal.
Good for you. Good for you. That's more than most people. There's 110 different jurisdictions around the world that have freedom of information legislation. And that legislation is backed up by an ombudsman, a review process. Sometimes, it's got a basis in the constitution of that particular jurisdiction or the founding documents. It's very, very easy to use. I mean, I looked in the state of Texas where you're located. You can send a freedom of information at the state level, like you already know the process. It's just a letter. It's just a simple letter. You can create, you can call yourself Monkey Banana, Mr. Big Fridge, create an anonymous, email and send a letter, and you say, I'm Mr. Big Fridge and I want to get all the emails of this or this particular department or person, emails that pertain to this or that. I mean, how easy is that? And it's free in most cases, unless what you're asking is going to take, a considerable amount of time. And you don't have to justify why you want that information. You can just say, I want the emails of, Frank, who works in the Lands and Survey Department, between this period. You don't have to say why. You can just get Frank's emails. And like, how much transparency does that give? It's huge. So why don't people do it? I've sent probably about 4 or 5 different FOIs. I got an example for you. Whenever an FOI is received by a government entity, if it is a person, if it relates to a person within the government, so you're asking Frank's emails, Frank will be notified. If Frank's going to get a notice one day, hey, there's an FOI that says, we should disclose all your emails from this and this date. Like how do you think Frank, will react to that? I mean, government emails, are public record. And he probably used his email to order pizzas or, say goodnight, to his wife or whatever. And maybe, said a few things that he doesn't want people to know, made a few comments. That puts him in line, even if the emails aren't sent for whatever reason. He is now more aware and aware of the consequences of his actions for the simple fact that somebody in that, location sent a freedom of information. During COVID here, during the lockdowns, our public health person was targeting children quite heavily, giving gifts and that sort of thing. And it was a very sketchy individual who had, questionable background and history and whatnot. So I just sent an email with an FOI request in it, asking for every email that contained, the word, Pfizer vaccine and whatnot, for a specific period. Literally that week, the guy completely went dark. And about a month later, left the jurisdiction, left the country. I didn't get the emails. The feedback that I got was that the request is overly burdensome for that particular department or whatever. And I could have pushed that, to be fair. I could have gone to the ombudsman. It's not the justification they gave me not to give me the emails wasn't sufficient. I could have pushed. I didn't, because the guy left. And it's just, if you want to keep a government accountable, why the hell aren't you sending FOIs? I mean, literally anything you want to know, you can find out. I mean, unless it's specific cases like a negotiation or something that would be considered to be kind of very dangerous, or would harm the jurisdiction as a whole if it went public. I mean, you've seen big FOI cases with everything blacked out, et cetera, et cetera. But as an individual, keeping unelected individuals accountable is done by FOIs, and you should send one tomorrow. Your viewers should send one. Is there something that you're kind of scratching your head and going, why did the government do this? Why do they say this? Why did they sign this contract? Why did they build this road? Why are they a member of this or that organization? Heck, how many people in this particular department went to the latest World Economic Forum meeting? You can FOI agendas. Why don't you? You'll know everything about them and about the people who are drafting and building policy in your particular kind of region, and you can do so anonymously. I mean, why wouldn't you do it now, right? So that's a tool that we have as freedom-loving individuals to really affect change. And I'm telling you, you might not get the info that you sent, that you requested, but it will keep people accountable just for the very fact that you sent it. And if people don't do it, well, fine. It just means they don't want to know.
Hey, do you still have your Bitcoin on an exchange? Don't hold your Bitcoin on an exchange. Take it into self-custody. If you're looking for an easy way to do that, we have the BitKey. BitKey is Bitcoin made easy to use and hard to lose. Take the first step, get your Bitcoin off the exchange. Check out the link in the show notes. That'll get you 20% off your BitKey, or use the code TFTC20 at checkout.